Well, what do you get when you bring together drama, high stakes, big flips, and a husband and wife team? None other than the masters of flip, Kortney and Dave Wilson. We love you guys.
Aww,
and
we love being here.
Is everything good in your worlds?
It's great in our world. We're actually just wrapping up season 3 because it's now airing, which is amazing. And I'm homeschooling yet another child.
So you two are just doing it all, and I love seeing all about your life. I follow them both on Instagram so I can see about the kids because they keep showing up here without those children.
Next time we'll do something with the kids.
They're not as fun as you would think on the set. I promise you.
I don't know about that.
Don't go by Instagram.
I know, right? Never go by Instagram. That's actually a rule of thumb for life. I want to talk a little bit about hot neighborhoods because you guys are doing a lot of buying and flipping, and there are so many people who are into real estate. I mean, it is blood sport. We want to know what the hot neighborhoods are, or how you even know what neighborhood to approach if you're looking for real estate.
Well, and you know, this applies to us, but this really does apply to everybody. You know, of course, you have to go with your, you know, what is your main purpose? Do you want to live near the city, close to restaurants? Do you want to live in the suburbs? But regardless, I think if you look at up and coming areas, you look at rental flow. So is it a lower income area or lower rent? Those are the areas that usually become gentrified over the next few years, which means, you know, people like us, 10 years ago when we couldn't afford a house, we went to these areas and purchased a larger home in an area that was up and coming, and the restaurants follow, the ice cream parlors follow, the sidewalks follow. So I think getting in on
coffee shops, don't leave out the coffee.
I think getting in on the early side is really, really helpful, especially in a market like Toronto or places like this that are so expensive. Because you can still get close to the city.
Absolutely. So you shouldn't let the fact that maybe the infrastructure is not quite there yet stop you from getting in.
No, because as other really popular areas become overpriced or unaffordable, where are you going to go? Well, the other thing is that schools, you have to look at schools, you have to look at
I already said coffee shops.
I know. You know what? I was going to look at you. He honestly, every time we go in to look at a house, he's like, "Where's the nearest coffee shop?" Because in East Nashville, where we are, that's everything. Everybody does everything over a latte. It feels. I don't know if it's that way here, but
yeah, no. I'd say coffee is pretty huge right across the continent. It is. We are coffee junkies, right?
Well, now
so
that
I'm
starting my own donut diet, so I'm now looking for donut shops in the area.
That sounds like a good one. We should have a segment on that on the show. Just exclusively donuts, though, right? I like that.
Take me 4.5 years.
The other thing that you really have to look at is old houses. So it seems sort of cliche to say old, but when you're looking at neighborhoods with older houses need to be renovated. So people look at it as an opportunity to make money on an older house where usually the infrastructure is pretty solid back then, not the houses that we take on. We take on all the structural issues. But it's an opportunity to sort of get in. Obviously, when there's character in a neighborhood, that's never going out of style, so people are always going to buy into that.
I should put a caveat out there because the neighborhoods that you are looking for and the houses that you and Dave are looking for, I mean, we're talking about almost condemned. You guys want almost the worst of the worst.
The worse, the better.
The worse, the better. So if they're
Yeah.
going into a neighborhood, you need to turn around, okay? You need to get out of there.
No.
So I'm going to show you some pictures of the sort of places that these guys get. They get the heart eyes, you know, the emoji with the hearts. This is that when they see these places, they're really excited. So look at this house.
Yeah,
this was a good one for you.
That was a doozy. I'm not going to lie. The structure was, well, it wasn't structurally sound in any way, shape, or form. I think there's a picture later on coming up where literally in the house there were plants and growing in the house, on the upper level, because there were holes in the rooftop. So these are obviously things that I think the average buyer should not take on. And as a realtor, I sort of discourage that because you really are building the house from the ground up, keeping the character and keeping the tall ceilings.
Yes.
But
what?
What do you like about it?
I like indoor plants. And
but nothing. Get it?
Yeah.
Let's actually flip through a few of these pictures. Okay. We have a lot of examples of the different things that should be a red flag to most of us, but for these guys that are flipping professionally, it makes a lot of sense for them. So you might see a deck that structurally is not very sound.
Well, and this deck it looked structurally sound when we bought it. As soon as somebody walked on it, it literally collapsed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so the everyday buyer you really do have to kind of go in depth with your inspections now, because you don't really know what's going on. They may have never walked out on the deck because they knew it wasn't structurally sound. And although the seller should disclose this stuff, and I know everybody in this room would totally disclose it, you really have to dig.
You got to dig. You got to look around. You got to walk into holes that you might fall into.
That's right.
I want to show you this hallway because the title for this picture is Odor Hallway. Why is it Odor Hallway? What did it smell like?
This was, it's kind of like a salad of odors. So you first walk in and the fragrance is urine. But then you're like, oh, there's some dead animal in there. And then like a sandwich smell, you know? And,
What's so interesting about this house, I think, you know, had I taken another buyer through, the rest of the house, other than like the very front part where there was water damage, wasn't so bad. The drywall wasn't terrible, but the odor was horrendous. And there are some odors that you just cannot get out unless you get the house to the stud. So if you walk into a house that actually looks decent, but the smell is really bad, I'd actually write that as a contingency into your inspection process. If we can't get rid of this odor,
forget it.
We're out of here.
well, and the hardest odor for us getting out is the cat urine is a hard one, but smoke.
Yes.
Smoke gets into the drywall, it's very porous, and it gets in there, it gets into the ceiling, and we've had to air out a couple of houses for a good month.
Wow.
And we're still tearing it all out.
And you're still tearing it all out, and you've got to do that. One more, we've got Odor Living Room. I want them to see Odor Living Room as well.
Living room.
So, I mean, the ceiling is a disaster. Is this the same house where we have the nice mix of sandwich, dead animal, and urine?
This was dead animal.
Okay.
There were definitely some dead animals in the walls in this house. And this is the house where we took a sledgehammer to the wall, and which is actually coming up. I'm getting ahead of myself, but there were termites, or not termites, there were
roaches.
Roaches that spilled out of the walls. Like, not millions, but tens of thousands,
well,
I would say.
We didn't count them. But to me, it was a lot of roaches.
When I see you on your show, and there it is, and I'm getting itchy right now, even looking
that
at
was
the
where the
picture.
plant was. That's where the plant was growing.
When I think about, when I see you guys on the show, and you just, you know, you put on your little mask and you go for it with your sledgehammer, I'm like, y'all are crazy.
No, you are just as crazy as me.
I am scared.
I'm convinced.
I don't want to see what's in those walls, but when you completely transform the space, you're like, these two are the smartest people ever.
Oh, no.
Well,
definitely not that. I think we're the craziest people ever.
But it works.
It works. And the thing is the transformation. And, you know, Dave and I, we moved to Nashville because we were songwriters and we loved that creative process. So seeing these houses within like 3 months transform, I think, honestly, the average buyer buying a house can transform their house in very similar ways. Maybe it's not structural, and maybe it's not like complete land or you know, an overhaul. But they can definitely transform it in very similar ways.
Well, we're so excited and thrilled to announce once again that Masters of Flip Season 3 is out now. So we can all catch Kortney and Dave on Wednesday evenings at 10 p.m. on HGTV Canada. Keep it going, guys.